Hello and welcome to this recording on a series on Active Directory demos. So again, I'll continue with Active Directory certificate services, and this time around we'll be doing a series of demonstration on managing certificates. So just deploying and using certificates, configuring certificate templates, different kinds of templates, and how to use them for different purposes. So previously we did some demos on how to configure a two-tier CA hierarchy, which includes an offline root CA and an enterprise subordinate CA. That's the issuing certificate authority. But in this case, we'll just be dealing with certificates and certificate templates themselves. So now we have a hierarchy configured properly. And for this for this particular demonstration and the ones that will be coming, what we'll be doing is this. So I'll just wipe this one off and let's state clearly exactly what we're looking to achieve. So here's what we'll be doing. We'll be discussing how to deploy and configure. Sorry, let's just put it this way. Let's say configure certificate template. How to enroll and use certificates or different types of certificates, and then we'll discuss, not discuss, but demonstrate auto enrollment and also signing a document using a digital certificate. And for this demo, these are the machines that I'll be using. So I have a machine Learn Client 1. So this is a Windows 8.1 machine, and it has things like Word 2013 installed on it. And I have another machine which is a domain controller, and I have two domain controllers here in virtual machines, and I have a member server Learn server 1. So this is my enterprise CA. So that's the certificate authority. So let's get right to this. So right now I'm on Learn CA1. You can see Active Directory certificate services installed. And what I'm just going to quickly demonstrate is the concept of configuring certificate templates. So the tool that you'll be using mainly will be the if you go under tools, go under certification authority. And if I expand that a bit, under certificate templates, this shows the different templates that I can issue certificates against on this CA. So most of the ones most of the ones you can see here are ones that are configured by default, that is out of the box. I can add more if I want to. So if I want to add more templates to issue against, I can right click on certificate templates and click on manage, and then that shows me much more templates that I can now configure. So what I'll be doing now is I'll be creating a new template, that's based on this web server and this built-in web server certificate template. So what I'll do is I'll right click on that and I'll duplicate the template. And if I go under general, I can change the name to whatever I want. So in this case, I'll just call this the production web server template. Let's increase the validity to 3 years validity. Let's go under the request handling tab here. And Yeah, I'll say allow private key to be exported. So this is one thing. So there are different things we can configure for this template. So I can say allow the private key to be exported. If I want, I can say I'm not allowing the private key to be exported. Um, in this case, I want to allow it to be exported. So I'll click that. And this is excuse me. So this is especially useful. Let's say it's something that will be generated on another machine, and then you'll be exporting this to the machine that you'll be using it on. So in this case, I can generate the certificate on another machine and then export it along with the private key to the machine that I'll be using it on. Of course, there's more security risk involved with that. You have to make sure that the whole process is well controlled. Um, because once you have the private key, the certificate is compromised, but that's the way to allow the private key to be exported if you want. So clicking that, I can click, okay, let's minimize this. Let me just publish a new CRL. So for certificate, I can publish a new CRL. So what I'll do is I'll create another new template for users that will include smart card logon. So again, in this case, I'll be duplicating an existing template. So I'll be duplicating the user certificate in this case. Click duplicate template and properties. On the general, I'll change the name again. I'll call this the ADCS user certificate template. And on the subject name, because um, I don't have any email server configured in this environment at the moment, so I'll just disable this option to include email in the certificate. So I'll just be including the user principal name. And yep, if I go under the extensions tab, so this is where I can add like the different policies that I want to apply. So in this case, the application policies is going to be used for encrypting file system, EFS, secure email, for client authentication. But I want this to also be used for smart card logon. So in that case, I can click edit and add an application. So it says add an application. An application policy defines how a certificate can be used. So in this case, I want it to be used for smart card logon. So I can go for smart card logon and click OK and OK. And so there are other options that we can configure here. I can go under superseded template and say this certificate supersedes this certificate template supersedes an existing certificate. So in other words, someone tries to request a superseded a certificate based on a superseded certificate template, it will issue it against the new one. So if I go on the user and say the certificate supersedes the user certificate, um, yep. Security is where I can configure where exactly has the right to read or write or enroll or to enroll the certificate. So in this case, we already have authenticated users have the read ability, but I want them to be able to enroll and auto-enroll the certificate. So I'll click put that and I'll apply that. I'll click OK to that. So in this case, I've configured these two templates. But now I have to configure the templates so that certificates can be issued against them. And the way to do that is if I close this, if I go back to certificate template under this certification authority console, can right click and go under new and go certificate template to issue. And shortly it's going to come up with a window that gives me option to select certificate template. So in this case, the new ones have configured ADCS user and production web server. So I select both and I click OK. And now I can go ahead and issue certificate against these two templates. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the templates. I'm going to go ahead and enroll the web server certificate um, against this particular template, production web server. So if I go to launch server one, so this already hosts the web server. So if I go under tools and go under IIS, let's just do a quick group policy update. And I'll show you the reason why we're doing a GP update late shortly. So some of these policies are controlled in group policy or controlled by group policy. Expanding that, and right here we have server certificate, so I'll click on that. I want to create a domain certificate for this web server, so I click on the option to create a domain certificate, and then very soon it's going to give me a window where I can complete the different fields that I want. Yep, and there we go, we have the different fields. So common name, I'll put in learn server 1 dot adatum.com. The organization, I'll set that to Adatum. Organization unit, set that to IT. Set this to CO2. If I click next, specify the online certification authority and friendly name. It's just for me to be able to identify the certificate in this store. I'll just set that to launch server 1, and then I'll click on finish. And then that goes ahead and requests the certificate from the CA, which then issues the certificate to this web server. So then I can begin to use it, my configuration. So that's the certificate that was just issued. So now I can go under my site, can go under my default website, I can go under binding, excuse me, now go under HTTPS, where I can edit and select the SSL certificate for this, which is the new certificate that was just issued. So I select that, I can click OK, I can close that, and then I can go ahead and test this. So let's bring up Internet Explorer. So what I'm looking for is just to make sure that whenever I access that website, https learn server1.adatum.com, there's nothing on this website, but main thing is I don't get an error message when accessing this secure website. So that's the thing that I'm looking for. And let's see if that happens, or if we get a certificate prompt or certificate error message. Yep, and there we go. No error messages, no certificate error messages. I can view the certificate that has been used. If I view certificate here, I can see that's Launch Server 1 issued by Adatum CA. That's the certificate has been used, no error messages. So that's a success. So let's go a step further. So on Launch DC1, which is again my domain controller and the certification authority, let's bring up group policy. So now we want to see auto-enrollment. So where I don't even have to manually go and request certificates for users or computers in my environment, I can configure them to be automatically enrolled once they log into the domain. So I'll expand that. I'll just edit the default domain policy in this case. And the policies are under policies, Windows settings, security settings, and under public key policies. So that's where we're going here. Let's expand this bit. Security settings and public key policies. Here we go. So now, here are some of the policies that we can configure. So this is the policy that controls auto-enrollment behavior. So I can go ahead and enable this policy setting. I want the option to be able to renew expired certificates, update pending certificates, remove revoked certificates. I want to update certificates that use certificate templates. So I'll apply that. And I also edit this option for certificate enrollment policy. So I'll enable it. So Active Directory enrollment is it's configured there by default if I read that. Um, so I'll just enable that and I'll just go, okay, that's enabled. Okay. Um, so now what I can do is I can verify auto-enrollment by going to my client. So what I can do is let's refresh a group policy first. Okay, let's make this bigger. Okay, so let's go GP update /FOSS. And this would just take a few seconds to update group policy. So after the refresh finishes, I'll bring up the MMC console and then verify if the certificate has automatically been enrolled. So in this case, I don't have to go and request for the certificate from the CA because this user is logged into the domain, the certificate will be auto-enrolled. And in this case, because I've configured the ADCS user template to supersede the user template, the certificate is going to be issued against the ADCS user template. So let's bring up MMC. If not, sometimes we need to log out and log back into the machine. So certificates, want to view certificate for the current logged in user. If I expand that, personal. So under personal, there's still no certificate. So again, I'll just do GP update first and then log out and log back into the machine. Okay. So actually, the other thing I want to go. So I'll sign out and then sign back into this machine. So what I'll do is I'll pause the recording in the meantime. So yeah, let's log back into this machine. So again, I think let's just give this a few minutes. So eventually, the enrollment will happen. We can go back to our CA to actually see. So we can see the independent requests and issued certificates, Kerberos authentication issued to. So yeah, so eventually we'll see that here. So that's the web server certificate. So issued against the ADCS user template. So we'll just give that a few minutes. That will eventually show up. Okay, I'm back now. So I realized that actually this is a really good one. for learners out there, because I realized that I made a mistake. So the configuration I made was I made a configuration on the configure computer configuration, which actually I don't think I have any template configured for computers to be able to auto-enroll um, certificates against. So this needs to be done under the user configuration setting. So we just go ahead and do that. So if I expand public key policies and just do basically the same configuration that we did for the computers there, I'll apply this one here. And I'll do the same and enable this. And okay, so that's enabled now. And then let's go back to test this. So just make sure that if you're configuring something that will apply to computers, um, you have to make sure that you apply that in the computer configuration section of your group policy object. If you're configuring something to apply against users, you have to make sure that you configure that against a user, against the user configuration. So let's sign in. So I'll just go back again to my CA and just see if I see anything, any new thing going on. Independent request. So I'm sure that against the ADCS user template that I have it configured for security, that I have it configured to allow authenticated users to enroll and auto-enroll. So that's important. So back here, and let's bring up MMC again. So again, let's just give this a moment. Okay, so I just took a few group policy updates. So just a few more group policy updates, and I did a few logouts and log back in. So eventually, the user account, the certificate was auto-enrolled. So one thing to make sure is that whenever you're configuring your group policy object, um, whenever you're configuring the settings in the group policy object, make sure that you configure under computer configuration if you want computer auto-enrollment, and configure under user configuration if you want user auto-enrollment.